Alright, economics video, I believe. Yep, that's what I chose anyway. Could have chosen other things, but didn't. Brain said, let's do this. So anyway, and filtered even. That's what the brain did. I'm not going to explain why. Yeah, really. You know, it's all gooey in there. Anyway, yeah, Skyzer and what's that crazy Greatex guy, and even Modern Mystic. So, yeah, those three people. I mean, Modern Mystic does his economic stuff all the time, but he did seem a little, I don't know, mushy, you know, on the subject of currency and what it does and how it's formed, and I just don't see any mushroom here. And Greatex certainly made a mess of it, but it was good that he at least pointed out that Skyzer's insane. Yes, that's the one that's important. It really isn't that complicated, you know, it really isn't. So let's just do it real quick here. Currency is just contract, that's all it is, contract paper. And so we have some standardized contract paper that is denominated. It just says this is worth 10 things, or 20 things, or 100 things. And so the basic contract is this is an exchange of goods and services value. That's all. Money's just a representation of value. That's all it is. It's a representation. It itself has no intrinsic value. You can't live under it. You can't eat it. You can't do much with it. You might be able to, well, let's not go into the things you might be able to do with it, but it probably wouldn't be worth it, okay, to use a $10 bill that way. But anyway, yeah, so it's an exchange of a representor of value. And in theory, when the government prints money, the idea would be that you could go back to the government with that piece of money and get back 10 real values. You know, you could get whatever the denomination was, you could get something of real value, like $10 worth of gold or $10 worth of some other thing that had real value. Not that gold has any real value, it's just propaganda value, but that's a whole nother subject. The point is, people will pay for gold. They'll wear it, they'll make jewelry out of it, they'll do all this other crap because they value it. But I would argue they're idiots. But anyway, let's go further. So anyway, the idea is that your money's worth something real, like food or a house or a car or something other that takes real labor to make and therefore has real value. Yeah. And so these people keep talking like the government just grinds money out, like it just has a little, you know, a machine with a handle on it and just keeps turning the handle and money pops out. And they're completely deluded. It's not the truth. Real cash is, they keep track of that. They keep track of how much they destroy and how much the new cash they make. And there's a number out there of cash, of bills that say a value of dollars on them. And that cash is, I think, now around, in America, 5 trillion, I believe. Last I bothered to go find out. Or billion. Billion, is it? It's not a big number. At any rate, the point is, it's not a huge number. There's a certain amount of it out there in cash, and that's all there is. And, you know, 10 years ago there was 3, so obviously we're accelerating the growth at which this stuff is put into the economy, but it's not an outrageous amount. The problem is, the government also produces this other kind of bill, this contract paper, called a note, a bond note. And then that one's the one that's troublesome. Because see, that one, they just produce it, and it really isn't, they don't take in anything, they don't have any guarantee of anything except something of the future. Basically, they just borrow, you know, real money, they take in real cash, and give out this note thing, and this note thing has the same exchange rate value in the economy as real cash. It's just as good as real cash in your pocket, in a sense. I mean, you can't go to the store with a bond, but the point is you can cash a bond almost anywhere. And or get cash for a bond. Transaction cash. I mean, I have to keep qualifying my words. But anyway, and but the problem is the bond is basically saying, I'll pay you tomorrow, or whatever. I'll give you a worker tomorrow. The value will be produced tomorrow. It's not because I have like it in the vault over here and I'll give it out to you. So even if you had a gold standard and you still issued bonds, you'd still be issuing fake money in an economy of real money. So it would make absolutely no difference. The standard part is kind of irrelevant because there's always going to be a default standard. And in a sense, it's almost better not to have a standard that's too strict because you don't want transaction cash to keep its value. Then people will do a thing called hoarding. And that you don't want. That's dangerous. That's why a gold standard would be very dangerous. Because if there's lean times or tough times, everybody will try to hoard the value. They'll try to store something real under their mattress or in their wherever. And then there'll be very little of it in circulation, and it will deflate or inflate in value, however you want to look at it, and cause great and profound disruption in the economy. So yeah, you don't want people hoarding cash. So you want it to slowly degrade. And the key word there is slowly, over time. So people always want to kind of get it out of their hands or pockets. They want to put it in the bank and get some interest. They want to put it somewhere, do something with it, so it doesn't just turn into garbage sitting in their pocket. That's the idea. So anyway, this whole debt crisis, you can just look at the facts and say, oh, that's pretty obvious. Okay, the real dollar amounts. So the federal government has issued a ton of these bonds. Trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars worth. Right? Many times the value of all the cash in the world. So, many times the value of all the American currency in the world we have produced into the economy through borrowing. So there's more fake money, quote unquote, more unreal asset, uncollateralized money, uncollateralized in the sense that it's a future promise. I can't afford to drop dead of a heart attack because I owe hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of labor to the people who own those bonds. Technically. Yeah, technically. And that's the whole problem here, is that the real money has been flushed of its real value by all this fake money, this borrowed money. And the borrowing just basically, the truth of the matter is, it can't be paid back. There's no way to pay it back. If the government tries to increase taxes in the future to acquire enough revenue to pay back all these people who think they own some cash, if they tried to cash out their bonds tomorrow, if all the bondholders showed up, you'd have to contract Americans into almost slave labor for a decade to produce all the value they would be obligated to pay these people with. Because the cash is made by work, let's assume, the real money. Real money has a worker's sweat behind it. And so to convert all those bond IOUs into real money, somebody's going to have to sweat. And we owe so much sweat, you'd have to wring us each individually for a decade or two to get enough drips of that blood to satisfy that debt. And who's going to do that? A bunch of disgruntled, pissed off Americans, I don't think, are going to do it. Now maybe they can get Mexico to do it for us. We can get them to do all the work. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to earn enough and pay enough taxes to pay those bills. So I don't think that's going to happen. So basically that's what the game's over because it's an unpayable debt. And once the debt is known to be unpayable, or that it's known that the government can't pull any more tricks to maintain the illusion that they're someday going to pay off those bonds, which they've basically done. I mean, people don't know this, but when the government took over Fannie Mae, completely, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, these mortgage companies, they basically started recycling all the bad paper out there, these IOUs that can't be paid back, these defaulted mortgages, these bad corporate loans, all that really garbage junk paper. And the government started taking all that stuff in through those institutions and giving people guarantees in return. Basically giving them U.S. bonds and saying, well, in 5 years, I'll give you something you can cash out for real money for your garbage paper. So we saved a bunch of stockholders. That's what they were. It wasn't just Wall Street. It was stockholders. It wasn't just the banks we bailed out. We bailed out rich people in general. We saved their stock market. That's the truth of it. If Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were allowed to go bankrupt, the stock market would have lost half its value, and every rich man would have been only half as rich. And for us average people, yeah, half of our debt would have finally gone away. So that was the real evil of the bailout, is they bailed out all these rich people. They bailed them out of their bad investments. They made bad investments, they lost their money, and we basically just said, it's okay, we'll give you your money back. Just don't ask for it today. As long as you ask for it tomorrow, or 3 years, or 10 years from now, then it's okay. We'll give you back your money. You didn't go to Vegas and lose. You actually didn't go to Vegas. You said, we're going to give you back your money. It's just absolute garbage, bullshit, nonsense. So that's the world you live in. So understand, these Democrats don't care about you. They care about the rich. And the Republicans obviously care about the rich. And for Skizer, Ron Paul is a Republican. There's no hiding that. He wants to tax workers, and he wants owners to go tax-free. He wants to abolish the only progressive taxes that exist, the income tax and capital gains tax. And so how can you defend that, you idiot, you moron, you fucknut? He wants there to be he wants to set up a system that creates kings. And he wants to do it in an idiotic way where he dissolves the United States of America into 50 little Balkan states and says, here, fight with each other, kill each other, knock each other down, connive and scheme with each other, overtax each other, charge each other too much for energy or electricity or some other resources, get into trade wars with each other. Like, that'll do us all a lot of good. States' rights is insanity. It's, and these idiots who think they're going to get some kind of stupid liberty, like the right to smoke pot or the right to hate niggers, out of this states' rights shit. I mean, you're just such fucking idiots. Sorry, I didn't mean to get hostile, but I mean, these people just really piss me off. Think you're somehow better off in gangland, that you're going to win, Well, guess what? In a fight of 50, where the winners take it all, you're probably going to lose. Dumb jackasses. Anyway, yeah. Especially if you're one of those idiots in the middle of the country, those little right-wing kooks, because they'll be the biggest losers, because you'll have nothing to bargain with. If you start extorting people for food, you're going to lose really quick, because the world will join in that war. The world will force you to play fair. So anyway. But anyway, cash, there's nothing wrong with the idea of cash. Fiat currency is perfectly sensible. It's perfectly idiotic to have real value in people's pockets just because of the idea of counterfeit, fraud, and it's just so much easier to dispose of some sort of common currency, to upgrade it, to change it. It's perfectly sensible. And when it comes to lending, it really gets sensible, because then you can use collateral. You can turn collateral, a house or some other thing that has pretty stable value, into lending value. So you can make interest rates lower, and more people can borrow money and potentially do something good with it. The problem is you can't have low interest rates and high bankruptcy rates. That you can't do. So if you don't have any real bankruptcy in the economy, where shareholders are responsible for their bankruptcies, if there's this idea where you're going to create a corporation that can just walk away from the mess it makes, well, then you're in trouble. That's not going to work. You can't have low borrowing rates and high bankruptcy rates, and a fiat currency. But if you're just a little bit sensible, fiat currency lowers interest rates and creates more economic opportunity. So it's just stupid to think it's a problem. It's only a problem if you borrow money. It's the borrowed money that's the problem, idiots. It's not the currency that's broken. It's the $16 trillion in federal debt that's the problem. And the 40 or 50 trillion in personal debt. That's the problem, idiots. Alright, that's enough. Thank you very much. And so forth. And whatnot. Yeah, it's cold today, but it's going to be really cold tomorrow. Ooh, I hope to stay out of the weather tomorrow. I hope to. But if I don't, I'll have to wear some sort of shielding against it. Yeah, really cold tomorrow. Hard. But, you know, it's winter. Gotta buck up for a couple of months of this shit. And then I'll be back to swimming in the pool and such. Yeah. You know, I don't die or something. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I just really hate being alive. I do hate being alive. It was a bad idea in principle. And such. Okay. Till next time. So forth and whatnot. Touchscreen.